his wife so he could come to counseling. Then I told him whether he has come to police for some kind of assistance or whatever. He was actually due for suicide. And he told me, I can't go to police simply because I've been there several occasions and they ridicule me. Even in the community, like if I call in-laws or whatever, I'm ridiculed all the time. They tell me, how can a whole man be physically abused by his wife? So it's a challenge. You get to the front desk at the police with an issue, you are ridiculed by the police officers whom you would expect to help and understand you. Relatedly to the senior women teachers at school, young girls have issues, but when they go to the senior woman teacher, it's like she spreads information about this girl's case or issues. So most of the times they keep their challenges to themselves, and at the end of the day, they harm themselves. They are not getting any help at all. So how are you going to manage that?
Thank you for those questions. One last question, then we shall hear from the online audience.
Thank you very much. My name is Gita Emmanuel, and mine is a concern when it comes to the Ministry of Education concerning the Ministry of Education concerning guidance and counseling. We did our practicum last year concerning guidance and counseling in schools. I have very many of my friends with whom we did it, but we face a challenge that when you get there, there are some teachers with a negative attitude towards counseling. There are some teachers who used to ask us, I have taught for 10, 15 years. What do you think you know more than me about students? But you sit in a classroom of over 200 students, depending on the setting of Uganda. You cannot know all of their issues. And as well, students could come to me and they would tell me, you know what? I cannot share my issues with the teacher. Because at the end of the day, it's the same teacher who is going to stand in class and teach me. And there is one who faced stigma. A teacher gave an example of the issue she shared because they do not have the clear understanding of confidentiality concerning matters of clients. So my continuous appeal is, can we encourage teachers to liaise with counselors on a higher basis? Just refer, but do not condemn and kind of disagree with them in some matters. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The issue of confidentiality has come up again. Maybe we shall go to hear from our online audience, the comments that are coming through. Then we shall give about 1 minute each to each of the panelists to respond.
Projection. Right, from online, I think it will be for both. Sister is saying being young is not an issue as long as somebody has skills and is professional. The question is, where will we expect the young professional to get experience if we continue pushing them? I think this takes us to the question of where is the school of experience if people like us, or in our early and later days of life, we don't leave space. Kapuku, who is a refugee himself, is saying, thank you, madam. This is to the police officer, and saying it is true that refugees from DR Congo, many men suffer in silence because of fear of rejection and family breakdown. That's why they do not disclose experiences of sexual violence. And his appeal is police officers, specifically men, have a problem working with men as well who come to report experience of sexual violence because they say they have not trained on those issues. So I think that goes into curriculum development for Uganda Police Force. Solomon Awidi, who is a staff of Refugee Law Project and a co-manager as well, is saying to the judiciary, thank you so much, and it's great to hear that a lot is being done in terms of responding to psychosocial needs of litigants. The question, however, is what plans does the judiciary have to incorporate psychosocial support into the formal justice system for members? And I think we draw experience from the ongoing court sessions that we always struggle to move around with interpreters. I think there are other issues there as well. Solomon again says we should be very careful dismissing young people because otherwise they will be the one that will continue to produce children who will inherit the planet that we have. Stephen is saying we need to empower the counselors and above all to to motivate them financially, because that is the reason why some of them divert to other professions or to do other work. Robinson Ochira from Kiriandongo is saying he's hearing that classes are beginning in January 2020 for children, and he's not sure whether all the psychosocial and emotional needs of learners will be dealt with, especially what they have been struggling with from home, and what plans the school have to embark on that. I think that builds onto the conversation of it's about time government employed school counselors. Thank you.
Thank you for those questions. We've had quite a bit of feedback from the online audience, so maybe we shall add 1 more minute. So if you could respond to both online and the in-house contributions to 2 minutes. So I'll start with Harriet to respond to the questions that were presented, and then we shall end with Hajat Aisha.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank our colleague. I would like to begin with the one on the issue of the senior women and the men teachers, and generally the guidance and counseling teachers. Issues of confidentiality have always been breached. But I'm happy to note that with the guidance and assistance of some of us in this room, that is the president of the Uganda Council, guidelines were developed on roles and responsibilities of senior women, senior men teachers, including the guidance and counseling teachers. These guidelines are now being disseminated, and we hope that when they get into the schools, then we shall have to change the picture. Then the issue of the negative attitude towards guidance and counseling. I've also been a classroom teacher, and I've equally faced such challenges, because the mature ones will tell you, but who are you who think you know better than us? But at the end of the day, these are kids, we need to help them. So he suggested, I think this is now a thing we'll take up, liaising with counselors. I know of some schools that have professional counselors who come in. And I think on this note, I would like to urge us as a team to work together to see that we have full-time counselors appointed in schools and in colleges. And then finally, the note of children beginning in January, I do not have the right to announce, because it's His Excellency who did announce, and he said he would get back to us in January. So we need to wait for him to give us a time when the children will get back to school. But at least we know that the candidates and the final year students are on. I know there are issues of mental health, but we're trying to see, working together with Ministry of Health, how trainings can be done for the teachers, so that when the learners get back, then at least they'll find a team that can be able to support them mentally, emotionally. I submit. Thank you.
Thank you. Let us hear from Hajat Aisha. You had quite a bit of questions.
One that came from my brother to do with the Child and Family Protection Unit. It's quite very, very critical. Because one thing we have to appreciate, the kind of work they do, even themselves, every day they may need counseling. But what we have to appreciate, none of those ones that work with child and family are counselors. As police, I think it's a gap that we have to carry out research and see how best we can fit it in. Because posting you to work with child and family, you shouldn't have to be a counselor. Anybody can be posted, any transfer can come, and you end up in child and family. So the best practice that perhaps we could do would be to have all these officers trained. And as part of our mandate as police, someone get up, especially to do with psychosocial support, because nobody takes it as something that is urgent for us to attend to. It's not there. So that's why you find even the family and child, for instance, within the urban centers, you could find it here. But like when it comes to I doubt we even have these services in those districts. So I think we have to work more. And that's why I encourage perhaps if we could come up with a curriculum to see, because with training we have different training schools. We have recruit schools in Masindi, in Cavalier, we have in Ikafe, in Yumbe, we have in Olim. and our police staff and command college. So if we could perhaps, because with the child, at least any police officer should be in position to do that. We may not at child and family protection officers. So I think it can be a starting point for us to see how to improve. Sexual and gender-based violence, especially when it comes to men, it's just a nightmare. I've ever carried out a research on violence against men, but you find majority of them will tell you may never come to police. And of course, a man to come and report that you have a case, I don't want us to lie to ourselves. Someone may not even give you an ear to listen to you. They take it as a joke. But like some of us who have worked with SGBV at many, many levels, including even people we think don't suffer with SGBV, is very, very critical, especially for the men. They even fear to talk. Because even when they come to police, someone is just going to take it as a joke. They always take this side of the woman. Only the judiciary can try to see how best to mitigate issues to do with domestic violence and sexual and gender-based violence. But with us police, we still have a lot to do. The department we have of sexual and gender-based violence is only at CID headquarters. And many people, including police officers, I believe don't know it's existing there. And it's also already overwhelmed with cases. Child and Family Protection Unit doesn't investigate, no. So you find even people go there, most of what they have to do is psychosocial, but at times they do the referral pathway. Because certain cases are known to be for child and family, they're supposed to come to sexual and gender and gender-based violence and sexual offenses department. But sensitization and awareness, that's why part of restructure for police now, they decided all those ones be put under one directorate. So when people come, they don't have to, waste so much time on knowing what and where to go. I think it's something that we really have to work on as police. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Hajat. I shall let's give the panelists a clap for their presentations. So thank you. I know we went a bit over time, but at least we did it on full bellies, not on hungry bellies. So I have a disclaimer. So thank you for listening to us. I think one of the key issues that came out of this session is having full-time counselors in schools, in detention centers, and in court. We need that. So whether it's recruitment by the various government organizations to recruit counselors to be full-time and be accessible for clients, that would be a very good recommendation. And then not to forget, Uganda Police, please take the offer for full bursaries from Kisubi University. Thank you. So I hand over to the day manager, Jimmy.
Thank you very much, Devota, for chairing this session, and thanks so much to our distinguished panelists for the insightful presentations you did make. They provoked lots of discussions, a lot online, and we want to thank. Let's clap for them as they take their seats. I would like to take this opportunity to thank our online audience for remaining interested and remaining so focused in the discussion and actively participating. It's just because of time, otherwise we would have seen lots and lots of those comments coming through over the screen, but there's a lot of conversation that is going on online, provoked by the different discussions that are taking place here. Now, we are coming towards the beginning of the end of the 16th annual conference, and here comes our last panel discussion that is looking at bridging theory and practice, students and lecturers. Our session chair on the program, Richard Okidi, is unable to be with us, so my sister Elizabeth is standing in, and I would like to right away hand it over to her to invite her panelists and ensure that by 4 we should be leaving this place. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jimmy. Quickly, without wasting time, we are privileged to have Gita Emmanuel from Chambogo University. He is a finalist doing his bachelor's degree in guidance and counseling. Please come and take your seat. And we have Reverend Father Evarist Ankwansize. I'm struggling there with the N and the, but please, Reverend Father Evarist from University of Kisubi, please come and take your seat. They are going to help us just to put all that we have listened to together and see how the academia can fit into this whole discussion about mental health and in the context of forced migration. I'm going to give each one of them 5 minutes, and I'm sure that is good enough to set our minds thinking. Remember that anything that we don't act upon, anything that doesn't grow into learning, might as well just stay here. So welcome. I'm going to welcome Gita to come and take the first slot to speak. And then after the 5 minutes, we shall have Reverend Father come and speak to us. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My names are Gita Emmanuel Freeman, but my name is Gita Emmanuel. Freeman is my working name that gives me free accessibility to everyone. So the moment they hear Freeman, everyone can approach you anyhow. So when I was working with Free Mind Hive, we had what we call a zap chill. So I'm going to spare only 10 seconds of my time to request the audience, please, you can stand up shortly, you stretch. We used to have it in office for you to get off the fatigue, so that you get active back to work. So you can stretch forward, backwards, anyhow, just to get yourself back to active. I know the moment after lunch. Yes. All right, thank you very much. You can take back your seats. First of all, I would like to thank the Uganda Counselling Association. I would like to thank the Refugee Law Project for this conference and all the partners, as well as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Thank you very much for organizing this conference. Now, for the recap of all that has been discussed. First of all, I want us to understand with the current people and those online, what is mental health? Some people don't understand what mental health is. And they only think that mental health is for those that are having maybe mental disorders, I hear that bipolar, things like that. But mental health is generally your physical, psychological, and emotional well-being. How are you as a person? If I could stand up and ask one of you there, how are you? You tell me, I'm fine. Yet you're having stress of debts at home, but you're like, I'm fine. Emotionally, you're dying inside, but I'm fine. And that is everyone's notion. Personally, my friends know me. If I'm stressed and you ask me, good morning, how are you? I would say, I'm fine, but I have something challenging me. If they can accept, they help out. So I want to help the audience out there and you present. Mental health is not something that is psychometric that you need to assess so much. Understand that it is your emotional and psychological well-being. Coming back to the main course of the day. Refugees in the country, we were meant to understand that we can only provide them with food and shelter, maybe health and treatment. Little did we know that there was so much to dwell with as has been presented concerning their psychological and well-being in terms of thinking, attaining peace in the environments they've been provided. So I would like to thank all that are presented concerning the mental health, the different ways we can still reach out to the people. I want to first thank those that came up with the telecounseling during this COVID-19. I've found it very helpful because I as well used it on the different students that could approach me, or my fellows that could approach me on Facebook, on my Instagram, on Twitter. Someone comes and is like, you know what? I see you post about counseling. Can you help me out? So we used to use our phones, contact them, and I still keep on checking on them.
So this is not too much science for everyone to use. How do you use your phone when you wake up in the morning? Do you post maybe your first post in the morning? Is it about the recent killings or it's about a motivation message? That is my daily use of my phone. Early in the morning, even these recent risks where people lost their lives, where people lost their lives in the riots, I'd wake up in the morning and at least give a consoling message to anyone who was there. And I believe I have friends who have come from different countries seeking for asylum in Uganda. We talked about suicide. I can give you an example. I have a friend from Congo. Currently, he's having refuge in Uganda. But on top of this trauma and grief they had before, as they came in Uganda for asylum, they had other issues. Now, let me bring about the love issue. Right now, he called me 3 days back. He broke up with a girlfriend. And what he's looking at is, I love this girl so much. I've invested a lot with this girl. And now she's telling me that we are ending. He wanted to end his life because he's in Barara actually. He wanted to leave and just come to Uganda and he's like, I'm tired of everything. Because they've had breakups for more than 5 times. But he's still insistent. As we focus so much on the grief and the trauma that comes around the issues in their homes, and as well as what they face when they reach here, can we also dwell on their daily activities? How do they relate with people? More so even if it is within them and there are other people that they come with. Then limited funding from the government that has been approached, and I love to thank all the government officials that have been here and you've been able to address our query concerning the funding towards psychosocial support to the refugees and as well as the whole of Uganda. Normalizing the conversations of self-care and opening up for caregivers. Counselors out there, psychosocial support providers, you really need to take care of yourself. Because we also break down. As you go to work, you might have a lot of clients. I've told you I'm a finalist, but I started practicing this when I was in senior 6 as the head prefect of Mount St. Henry's High School, Mukono. I started my counseling with the students at school. Even if it was not professional, it's what inspired me to come up for the counseling in the university. But as well would break up. There are times where you'd wake up in the morning and you have academic pressure on you. But as well you have clients to attend to. So I request that you also take off some time, counselor self-care. Do it, have some fun, go out. Yesterday we were here for a conference. After the conference, I had to meet a client in the night, that very friend of mine, the Congolese. But I was like, you know what? Before I have a session with him at 10 p.m., let me first go out and stretch a bit. I had to go out with some friends, sit down, had a drink, and got back home. That is part of self-care. How can you take care of yourself? Even those in refugee camps. I know most of the times you listen to those heartbreaking stories. Most of the ladies, our mothers, our sisters, our friends, you easily break, unlike us, the men. Someone tells you a story and you might break in front of the person. Yes, it is not professional, but you cannot fail presenting your emotions. But you should also be in position to collect yourself together and help the people in the situation. The other thing is we wanted to bring about connecting the theory with the practice. Some of our students out there, and those that I've studied with, I would like to thank Mr. Adrian and Mr. Gaston, the president of the Counselling Association. They've always encouraged us, go and practice. Where you go wrong, you come, we correct you. We have our friends who think counseling is all about sitting squarely, leaning forward, and, being empathetic, being confidential. Confidential with what? What are you keeping? You've written the client's information. You've covered, you've put in your file, you've gone to bed. Have you tried to share professionally with another to get information on how to deal with people? I've been volunteering in schools. Now coming to the Chambogo University Counseling Students Association that we started up as students. It was an initiative that was engineered by Mr. Adrian, the PRO of Uganda Counseling Association. We brought up the idea and we put it into consideration. Right now we are doing what we call school tours. Before COVID, we would visit different schools. We put in our request on voluntary level. And we have been able to visit different schools and the feedback was good because first time it was free. The other time they were calling us to pay. I remember my former school invited me, Mount St. Henry's High School, Mukono. I went with a team of 3. We thought they were going to give us a transport fee of maybe 20,000 each. I was surprised to open the envelope and it was 300,000. And the HM told me, I didn't expect this from you. So my fellow young practitioners out there in the counseling profession, don't wait to get the paper. The paper is going to be an additive to me and those I've been working with as evidence that I participated into counseling training. But I've already gotten some experience, which I feel proud of myself, but by the help of our lecturers. Thank you very much. And on the other thing, I request we involve the religion. In church, how often do they bring out counseling message to the people? Actually, I wrote an appeal. I wrote an appeal to one of the members of Namgongo Shrine, because that's where I have my prayers from. He advised me to go and meet the executive members as well as involve UCA. We want to push this to church level. After Mass, can I get 2 minutes or 3 minutes? Pass on a message. There are some refugees who can fund themselves, but they're out of refugee camps. But they're living in their own homes, living with stress, depression of all the different things they had out there. So I kindly request we involve them as well. Media platforms, they were here and they are still here. I kindly request to develop some programs. Welcome the programs you're going to bring, because I'm going to engineer that to move to different televisions and radios to see how best we can provide psychosocial support to everyone wherever they are. In their different languages, if possible, God willing, that will happen. And on the other thing, I request to reduce the negative attitude as my final point. Let us reduce the negative attitude towards the young people. The school tours, I started them as an individual and took my appeal to my patron. My patron advised me to see the president UCA to receive some guidance. And it has so far worked so good until before COVID. It does not mean being young, you have no idea. Listen to us, find way of motivating us and adding on what we have. And on the other thing, last but not least, we need to work together in everything. Despite your political party, despite your religion, we are all affected as one. Thank you very much for listening. I'm Gita Emmanuel, and God bless you all.
I was told this morning to make a reflection representing the lecturers in universities on what transpired in this conference, and it was indeed a challenge. I would attempt to do that in the time I've been given. I'm from University of Kisubi. I've been lecturing for 15 years, and I've been also in administration for 13 years as the Dean of Psychology at the University of Kisubi, and I'm a specialist in family therapy. That's where I have my PhD. My PhD is in family therapy. So I'm honored to represent universities, both present here and outside this conference online as a lecturer, and I think it is a better choice for me to say that I'm privileged to represent from the University of Kisubi. We had 15 different speakers who have spoken about so many other things, but the major themes which we talked about, there's 5 major themes: the mental health and COVID, differences of psychosocial approaches, psychosocial care, gender and mental health, psychosocial wellness of children, health services, and duty bearers. To me, to sum them up, I've discovered that for decades, there have been stigma surrounding the subject of mental illness and how we talk about it. In many cases, how we don't even talk about it. And this stigma on mental health has caused some people not even to seek help. From different presentations, I've discovered that there's a need to streamline a number of things in practice and in training. The narrative around mental health is slowly changing. That's what I've discovered also, and it's changing for the better. Although we still have a long way to go but I see the narrative is changing. Many institutions in Uganda have started training in different programs of mental health, and a number of other graduates are coming up, and many programs are being accredited by National Council of Science and Technology and National Council of Higher Education. So we are going to have more specialists than ever, and I think we shall cover up the gap which we have been having of pseudo-counselors, those who masquerade to be professional counselors, but they don't have any training at all. The institutions of higher learning in this conference, I think, have been educated on a number of things, including how to improve the training of our students and how even we can have counseling services at our universities. And the University of Kisubi opened up rooms for therapy to help staff and also the students who may have issues that need a psychologist or a counselor on board. I've seen through this conference that really we as researchers, we need to have context-based researches, and also we need to contextualize our programs, our academic programs, to meet the needs of today, the needs of time. I've discovered in this conference that as people training, we need to go beyond the day-to-day reports about mental health, but interact, engage practitioners on caregiving and mental health psychosocial support service providers so that we get the gist of what the people go through. Because if we train and we are not in touch with the practitioners, we're likely to rely on theories, and that will not be the best. This conference, I think, has also offered a platform for students at different universities to exhibit their researches, and also it has given scholars a time to present their own different findings. And to me, it is something very good that the organizers of this conference thought about. So in summary, I have 9 take-home lessons. I'm going to summarize them quickly. One is that we are dealing with crisis amidst crisis. Crisis amidst crisis in reference to refugees, in reference to mental health care. You know that the host committees from the presentations are asking for also to be given a support. The example of 2 sisters who were presented yesterday camouflaging to be refugees to get support. So we can already see that there is a need for really integrating the host communities and the refugees in the reception of services that are given. Also, we learned the second lesson that we are not safe unless all are safe. Somebody brought it out yesterday. The unsafeness of one person has a negative repercussion on the others. The other lesson we learn is that the vicarious trauma among refugee communities is high. The other lesson we learn is that there is a need to prevent and also assess clearly the issues of how we provide our mental health psychosocial services. Also, we need to deepen systems of support amidst the hostile environments that we may find ourselves in. Then also, we need to engage the community and community members to participate in the issues of their mental health. The conference, therefore, has given us an opportunity to break the silence of many of untold stories, like sexual violence towards men. We had testimonies, a need to revisit, rethink, or construct issues surrounding our cultures that may have the implications of disempowering some sections of the society. We have also learned that physical wellness is not an indication of emotional wellness. I was impressed on how Mary brought it out yesterday, that even if you provided physical needs of refugees, there's still a need for providing their emotional needs, and she called it psychosomatic sicknesses, which come up even if we have provided their physical needs. So as scholars, we're encouraged by this conference to deepen our research, and research should be evidence-based. And lastly, as training institutions, we need to work hand in hand with the Uganda Police. From the presentation we just had, we need to work hand in hand with the Uganda Police, especially the Family and Child Unit, in offering them workshops, trainings, and necessary skills, because we have been told that they don't have specialists of those units. This will fill the gap, and my brother invited them that University of Kisubi is ready to train them at a cost. We are already training UPDF on issues of mental health and also forensics. So they are also welcome to be trained by University of Kisubi. Thank you for organizing this conference, and we have learned a lot. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Father Dr. Evarist. Thank you very much, Jita. And just as our day manager, just as our IT team gets ready with any responses from the online audience, I think this was very profound. Is it a counseling practice? If it's a practice, let it be a practice. And then we are coming from a point that our linkage of theory to practice should be evidence-based, context-based. Academia keep in touch with practitioners so that we remain relevant to the needs of the people. Thank you very much, and we will get just two reflections. We have the lady over there, and then we have Rita. Just those two. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm by names of Nami. I'm from Chambogo University. My recommendation awareness, like I was watching TV and there is a gentleman that was sexually abused, but this personality, the TV personality, was actually laughing. Not encouraged to come up. Then in schools, that ladies should know the difference of the work of the senior ladies and also the counselors. So, appreciate the need for both, not for provide.
Okay, the next person this side, that's Rita.
Thank you very much. This goes to Mr. Jita. I expected something that I experienced as a student, but maybe these days it has changed. Do you have a big difference between having a lot of theory and very little practice? I remember my years when I was doing my master's in counseling psychology. We had a lot of class, we would read a lot, lectures, but very little time for practice. And when I went to Nyamitanga just for 1 week to sharpen my child counseling skills, we would spend only 1 hour in class. And the rest of the day, we were in the laboratory hands-on, in that I couldn't even fear the exam. I knew exactly what to do when I go back home. So for me, I had that challenge, but how is it today?
Okay, thank you, Rita. I think our first respondent was adding to the recommendations or points for action. And I think we can only have Rita in a sentence or two just to make a response to that. And then, so Rita, are you ready or we first? Okay, let's hear from the online audience, and then Jita will make that response, and then we'll hand over.
All right, thank you from online. I think a lot of it is around thank you. It is also good for the students who are now counselors, seeing the lecturers today. So from Stephen, he's saying, I like the young man. He is very relevant. I underline the word young man and very relevant because we also risk infantilizing people by attributing kind of labels. Like me, I'm also called a young man. It doesn't go well with me because personally I've been the same physical size for the last 10 years. So I think those kind of phrases means a lot, especially if you have survivors in front of you. So I'm not sure whether the young man took it very well, but I just underlined it. And it provoked a conversation, as you can see. If you are survivor-centered, you will not feel comfortable talking to someone who sees you in a particular direction because of your age. So I think this is something that we'll need to advance the conversation forward, just like we have females who females, and sometimes they want to speak to females again. And from Stephen, again, saying, I love the young man, he's very relevant, and nice direction of self-care empowerment. I think the conversation around self-care is one that we will not run away from. For us to be in the right state of mind, we also need people to support us so that we support others. From Irene Nansubuga, I think this is a summary of all the appreciation to the Reverend Father. But Solomon says, availing opportunities to all, regardless of age and gender, allows for better survivor-centered services. Only when the professionals are as diverse as survivors, then this can yield positive results. So for those who run counseling centers, in terms of age aggregation, do you have one person who is fit for everybody, or you have a spectrum that you choose from? I think from online, most of it is around thank you.
All right, thank you, Jita. Maybe in a sentence or two, then we'll have our day manager come and take over. Oh, I think, yeah, you could come here.
All right. Thank you very much, those for the compliments and for the question to Madam. She asked how we can, how the university is connecting theory to practice. Now, first of all, I would like to thank our university for the improvements they have done in the counseling training. Before, there was not much of counseling workshops. But now we had like 2 course units. Now the first one was Counseling Workshop 1, where they teach you how to approach a client. So with that, we had an activity where you sit with your fellow and each one of you comes up with a psychological problem or emotional problem. You present it to the counselor and the counselor tries to intervene. And you as well do the same for the other. We were evaluated and we were corrected on where we went wrong and where we went right. And then on Counseling Workshop 2, we are being trained on how to use theories. Which theory have you applied in your counseling? And it was also by recording video, submit the video. The teacher looks into the video. The lecturer tells you, you went wrong here or you went right here. And on the other hand, I still emphasize, all training institutions, if you have students learning how to counsel, help them come up with projects. As I've told you, the one we came out with, she's Madame Charlotte. She's the deputy speaker of the Chambog University Counseling Students Association. She's one of the people that I always move with. We go to field. You meet the different students. Now we brought it as an opportunity for our fellows to come. At times a blessing will not find you seated. Wake up and knock it. Be with it. So we brought that as a blessing to our friends, those that came up, and the university embraced it. I was very happy when the Dean of Students told us that if you need funding concerning the association, whether going to visit a school or you're organizing a workshop, we are ready to fund. So that is another way in which we are trying to put theory into practice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jita, and thank you, our panelists. As we work at winding up, I'd just like to emphasize that what Jita is mentioning is actually in a document. We have accreditation guidelines that have been designed by Uganda Counselling Association, and within those accreditation guidelines, for an institution to offer counselor training, there are certain things that must be in place in regard to training. So that incorporates the counseling workshops, just as he has laid it out, and that's what we do. So if you are training counselors, Uganda Counselling Association can come and support you to do the standardization of the counseling programs that you're running, in whichever, whether it's police, whether it is in whichever context, we come and support you to do the standardization. Thank you very much. Over to you, the day manager.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth, for taking us through that session. I will request your panelists to remain for a minute or a second. We have a panelist, we have an online participant, Joseph Okello, who would like to say something. Our technical team, is Joseph still there? It could be a question to one of you, so kindly keep around for a minute. We hear what Joseph has to tell us this evening. Joseph, yes, Joseph, speak to us.
Is it okay?
Yes, Joseph, you're loud and clear. Speak to us, please. Unmute yourself and speak to us.
Okay, I want to say something. I am Joseph. I want to speak as a teacher and also as a student of Masters of Makerere University. I want to say something about the teaching and the counseling and those other issues surrounding them. What I want to with experience over 15 years, maybe 20 years in teaching, teachers are taught in their institutions as counselor guidance and counseling. But when you go to the field, you find that you have a lot of challenges. One, there's not enough time for teachers to do the counseling at the same time. You have to go, you find that teachers concentrate most of the time in teaching, and the side of counseling is not attended to. Then the other one is sometimes most schools in Uganda don't have enough facilities. You find there are few classrooms, and you find that there are no departments for counseling. Sometimes people have to do counseling under trees. Maybe not even there, just standing the client with the student. You find that it's not very possible for a teacher to carry out the issues of guidance and or counseling the students. Then the other, of course, for a long time, most of the time, the Minister of Education did not recruit teachers. So most of the teachers were recruited on private basis. So there has been the teachers have not been there enough to carry out the issue of counseling in schools. And of course, there is also the issue of the policy. I think the policy of the Ministry of Education to carry out and counseling departments and also
Joseph, you're breaking.
So that they can be able to. So I think some of those issues should be carried out. It's a very important thing. But of course, there should be a deliberation by the Ministry of Education to carry out the issues of counseling in schools so that they're able to liberate our children, because schools are real nursery beds for the future leaders and the future emissions. I want to end that for now. I thank everybody for participating in this workshop.
Thank you, Joseph. Joseph raises quite a number of issues. Raises the issue of a policy, issues of private teachers, teachers doing private training. I'm sure the commissioner, when she's closing, perhaps she will be able to put in context some of these conversations, unless when the panelists wanted to say something briefly regarding Joseph's presentation. In a minute, please. Can you have the mic? As Mary prepares to come and give us final reflections.
Allow me to Ryan concerning teachers after passing through the teacher training institutions, and when they go with the course unit of guidance and counseling, they concentrate more on teaching. We are to agree that really a course unit is not adequate for making one a professional counselor. So I think we, apart from that course unit teachers have got, we have professional counselors in schools to handle the issues of psychosocial issues of the student. Two, has also brought about the concern of the number of classrooms having very big classes and creating psychosocial issues. That is also true, and I think the ministry needs to see how that can be handled. And lastly, the issue of the policy is also critical, because as we are training counselors, I think we don't have yet a parliamentary mandate to monitor the training of counselors in Uganda. So that gives us a bit of a dilemma, even as UCA, to come and say, please stop teaching this and teach this. We shall ask, where is your mandate? So as an association, I think we are challenged to quicken the process of having a mandate, so that we are like other professional bodies in Uganda that can easily monitor and supervise the teaching, the training, and even the practice of counselors in Uganda. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Aware that the theme for this year's conference was attaining a healthy mind in a healthy body amidst COVID-19, focus on forced migration, mental health, and gender. So having allowed Joseph from online submit, there is a lady who says she also has something to say. Please just allow Gladys say that quickly. Gladys, are you there? Technical team, let's have Gladys on and get to hear what Gladys has to say.
Good afternoon, everybody. I appreciate Uganda Counselling Association for making this endeavor to make sure that we did not miss on the annual conference. I want to make a contribution towards what was asked to Gita Emmanuel. The students of Chambogo are also given a chance to come and talk to us and see how the counseling session runs. They come to the counseling unit and come with an issue or a case that they present to a counselor, who takes them through a counseling session, and then they note and identify the different ways we handle the issues. That way, they practically get to know what happens in the counseling room. That answers part of the question that they had given to Gita, asking about having theory and no practice. That's how Chambogo does it. I submit. Thank you.
Much Gladys, adding weight to what Gita had to present, and we appreciate so much the online team as well as our physical audience for staying interested and remaining interested through. We are now coming towards the end, and in this time I would request Mary Kampogo to come and sum it up in the next few minutes before we get into the closing ceremonies. Let's give our panelists a round of applause and their chair, Elizabeth, for a job well done. Mary, thank you.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you, our session chair, Elizabeth, and our final panel, which was composed of the lecturer and the students. We thank you. We thank you for all that. We thank you for all the feedback, and for all our online participants. Thank you for keeping there. We know that we had a break that we had not initially prepared to have. Thank you for understanding and staying on. We appreciate. And we take it that actually you're interested in the issues that we are discussing here. So this last session, very last session, which is going to take a short time, probably 10 minutes, is to think through, after we have had these 2 days, and we have discussed the different challenges, mental health and psychosocial challenges that forced migrants go through. And then they come and they also get into the host community that have their own challenges. We have seen that forced migrants have quite unique challenges. We talked about them right from the beginning, right from the introductory remarks and the framing. And today, and you had Ezra talking about, posing different questions about where they are coming from, the different cultures, and when they come here, do they need counseling only? Do they need, what else do they need? And so from all that we have talked about, which is rich and very important, how do we move forward? How do we move forward from here? Because we have spent 2 days, very important days, discussing very important issues. We don't want to leave it here. We want to take it on. We signed a signature chart, a commitment chart, and I hope every one of us has signed. If you haven't signed, please sign it. We all do psychosocial work in different areas. Even when you don't think you are a mental health worker or psychosocial worker, we understood today that actually psychosocial support is broad. Even a caretaker who is taking care of a child, or a husband who is sick, or a wife, or someone within the family, or a school teacher who is teaching the children and taking care of their emotional well-being, is doing psychosocial support. So if we understand it that broad, then how do we move in terms of providing mental health and psychosocial support? What do we recommend? What are your recommendations? What do we add? That's what we want to get, so that we can put them together, and this gives us a way forward. So I'll request Jimmy, our day manager, to pass around the mic. We'll take about 3 hands, and then we go to the next one. I gave you this during tea time. I'm sure you have reflected on it. And our participants online, please send in your recommendations so that we can end on a good note.
Thank you very much, Mary. For me, the core element of the way of forging forward in order to provide the social, psychosocial support to refugees and even to the communities. One important thing is we must avail or make an effort to have tailored training of counselors. Because we have so many categories of counseling, about 7. Now, where do you fall? Are you training in addiction, HIV, child and adolescent, or what? Group counseling, whatever. So it is important to be focused, to be tailored in a particular counsel area so that you are not taken up by events. To me, that is very, very important. It will help us to forge forward and have enough counselors. By the way, we don't have enough. As much as PRO said yesterday at the beginning, we have many counselors. I don't think we have many counselors in the country. Very, very few. We need more of such. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mary. Concerning the issue of counseling, as we wait for the structure of the Ministry of Health to include the counselors in the staffing norm of the health, we need training of health workers in counseling so that the issues which are burning right now can be solved in the community. And then issue of sign language, which is also a critical issue in the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. We also need to start where we are, where we stay. Because let's look at COVID alone. It has affected everybody, even where you stay. For me, I'm looking at meeting families, those immediate families at home where I stay. At least I am aware of some issues that are affecting them. Counseling is not so popular in Uganda, and that's one way of making it known, especially if you do a good job. So I think that can be a good way to start where you are. While others think of the big ways, we also need to look at those small ways. Sometimes when small things right, you will reach the big level.
Okay, thank you. I can have, and then if we have our online participants having their recommendations in, we can take them.
Thank you so much, participants. And to me, I think we have had a lot tailored discourses. And I feel what is missing out are issues of mental health, particularly for the elderly population. We are aware that in crisis situations, the elderly are the last to flee. And sometimes the young are left behind by the mothers because of the shocks and issues like that. So I think the elderly population needs to be given a central attention, especially around this time during COVID crisis. You can't imagine an elderly surviving on the earnings of the young, the youthful, the children. So I think they are suffering a lot, silent. Who cares about them? I think refugee law project should give those populations a central focus. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So what do we have any our participants online? Okay. So so we have Alan Stephen saying focus on parents, guardians, local authorities, religious leaders who are influencers to children's lives to see, appreciate, and ground a great value of children's safety and mental wellness. In brackets, demystifying cultures of quieting and keeping children in closet. And then Ben says, I suggest the way forward is that UCA could follow up with the Ministry of Health as soon as possible to allow government put counseling officers and supporting them at their works in all health centers, supporting from Health Center 3, starting from Health Center 3 to referral hospitals countrywide. Okay, so there are many, but I can read this. What I can assure you, our participants, physical and virtual, is that we have our rapporteurs taking these and we'll put them together and we'll be able to share. So all the recommendations you're giving to us, we will put them together and we get them back to you. But what I hear people say, especially with the training, is that we need to train more counselors, but we also need to train them appropriately. And probably what I can add here from the discussions we have had is that we need to train them to understand the uniqueness of the needs that forced migrants come with in order for the training to be tailored towards their unique needs. That's from what I listened to people saying. Okay, now in terms of, and so we go to training. I had talked about training, so if we link it up very quickly. In terms of training, our institutions that train counselors and mentor them, what are some of the recommendations that we want to give? I've already given one, but I know there are many others. So if we can have some hands.
I think as the training institutions, one of the major things that we need to put under consideration is to know that we are training a special category of the society to deal with special concerns of the people, dealing with delicate situations of trauma, stress, anxiety, depression, and all that. And if we don't change from theory-based training to practice-based training, we shall still train people with papers but without skills and values. So we need to really change our different curricula to be real hands-on. Have a bit of theory, but the major part of the training to be practical. If you looked at the program we have now in Kisubi, our timetable is 90% actual practical. Give theory, do practice. And we are revolutionizing actual products now because we have changed away from the conventional way of training counselors. And I think it should be picked up by all institutions. Not only having maybe few cases of workshops in all the internship, that's not adequate. That's what I see glaringly that needs to be done now.
Okay, thank you. So I'll take that one. If we have an online participant, we can take. So I'll take from there. It will actually wrap it up. That take the training where it is needed. So it's a special group. We need to understand it, and for us to understand it, we need to be trained in the kinds of needs that they have and the kind of support that they need. Do they need group? Do they need individual? For us to be able to bring in approaches that actually fit the kind of community that we are dealing with. So we'll end with that, and then I'll take Florence. Okay, Florence wants to talk to us, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. I thank the organizers of this conference. Has been very enlightening. My comments will be on the school counseling. There are two issues that we need to have conversations about differently. One, if we are going to have meaningful counseling with students, then maybe the Minister of Education will have to come in strongly, force these people to do exactly that work instead of what has been happening. Because it has a financial implication. And besides, if a teacher is also the school counselor, it means some of their work is going to suffer. Either they are not going to do the counseling properly, or they are not going to do their teaching properly, because each of these activities requires one to put in a lot of time.
Thank you, Florence. Florence, can we request you to...
Can I finish, please?
Please go
The
ahead.
practice of having a senior woman teacher and school counselor as one and the same person is not a good practice. One is very disciplinary, while the other one is supposed to be helping. How can the two reconcile? So we need to look at those things very, very critically. And this is something about the past. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Florence. We will take on with Florence, and we continue so that we can finish. Kindly, Florence, I request that you write some of the recommendations you have told us in the chat so that we can capture them correctly, because we missed out some of the parts of the recommendation that you gave to us. So finally, the last one is, who do we need to involve? Who do we need to involve in this discussion that can bring influence, can advance mental health and psychosocial support for forced migrants?
Thank you. I think I'm seeing hope. In the past, we are speaking about counseling, and we are not getting the government on board. And currently, I'm seeing people from the ministries coming on board to discuss these issues. I think we need to engage more the public service, because if you have very few people who are giving services to the students in schools, the hospitals, training institutions, and other arenas, we are not going to do much. So the government need to focus on mental health and service provision to the general public. once we are not having the public service on board, I think it's going to remain a talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, can we have another hand? Yes.
I work with the media group. And I know the power of the media.
Okay.
And so if you use the right media and package the message in the right way, there's a lot you can achieve with even limited. I think it is, because for the time I've been here, follow up on the ground. Whereas we say counseling is not embraced in most parts of the country, not just for forced migrants, I think the issue then could be the packaging of the message and what counseling. So if we use the right media, right messages, this can be, the burden will be lessened even for the few counselors who are available. And then if you train journalists, be specific with the kind of journalists you're going to train. If you go to the general desk, this is someone who runs around doing everything. So understand the operations of the media and how they work, so you're able to get your right message out to the right audience in a better packaged way. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone from online? Participant? Okay. So as we wait for our participants online, I think what I listen to, what I'm hearing people say, and from all the discussions we have had, is that for psychosocial support, we need to know the needs. But we also need to know the most appropriate ways of meeting those needs. And one of the ways of understanding them is engaging the people that are going through those needs, and engaging with an open mind of understanding, so that we come from an understanding of what their needs are and then bring approaches. And then for training, I think what I hear is that we need to understand the issues of forced migration, and mental health workers, training institutions need to take that to their institutions and begin to help their learners or trainees understand those needs so that they can tailor the support. And then finally, what I hear people say is there are many stakeholders involved, without forgetting the people on ground, the religious leaders, the cultural leaders, the schools, the people themselves that we serve, we support, the refugees themselves, the host community themselves, involving them in this kind of discussion. I'm sure that the more refugees we bring into the space, we saw that 2 refugees that talked about their experience, they gave us a different kind of fit. So this is what we can take forward, and probably in the next conference and other conferences that we are going to organize later, these are some of the things that we need to take forward. And then so we shall take these, the final ones that we have discussed, and others that have been given after the presentations, and put them together. And then that will give us a way forward to move into the future in advancing the psychosocial and mental support for refugees and host community. I want to thank you very much, and I'll take you back to the day manager to finalize the program. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Mary, for taking us through those last reflections. And I'm glad lots of recommendations are coming through. And we'll be sure to incorporate all those in the products that will come out of this. As we wind up, I know shortly after the closure, I will not have, my mandate would have expired. I would like to say thank you so much to the audience. Please clap for yourselves. And the online audience as well, we thank you so much for keeping with us. for remaining so interested, and really you've given meaning to what we call blended, engagements. It's a new norm that we are struggling with, we are learning. I apologize for whatever perhaps didn't go so well, but yes, the learning curve is still growing, and we know we'll get better. Amidst us, we're joined by a one Opoka Geraldine. Is she still in? She's moved outside. She's a dance therapist, and a fitness instructor working at Utavika Hospital. Those who are interested in dance therapy, how wish she was around, but yes, she had asked to inform people that that kind of therapy is available, and organizing an event, so she's out, so we can't dwell so much on that. Allow me invite the principals who organized this conference. I'll begin with the director, Refugee Law Project, who will, in very few words, say thank you. Geraldine is right there. Please, just wave to people. Those who are interested in dance therapy, that is the lady. You'll meet her outside, and she'll tell you more about dance therapy. So hands together for the director, who will come and give us very brief remarks as we close this. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Jimmy, and for doing a great job of trying to keep us on track today. It's not been easy. I just want to say a couple of words of thanks. First of all, to the two teams from Refugee Law Project and from Uganda Counselling Association, led, I think, respectively by Mary and Adrian, in terms of moving the process forward. As we said yesterday, we had tried to get married in March, and it was postponed up to now. So then, when you postpone a marriage, all sorts of questions can come up. But between them, they managed to resolve them, and I think we've really benefited a lot, all of us. I also want to say a very huge thanks to the technical teams, and there are two teams, and they have managed somehow to get all those cables to not reject each other completely. And I think they've really taken our blended convening to another level, where, as Jimmy said, we're on a very steep learning curve. It's one of the great things to come out of the pandemic, is that we're learning to have these kind of blended events where somebody can speak to us from Kotido as if they were almost in the room, or from London. So we really thank you all, the two teams there on one table, for making that function. I also especially thank our refugee representatives who made sure that we didn't kind of slip into a policy or academic comfort zones, and kept it very real. It's not an easy thing to do when there are so many people that you feel like you're fighting against a huge wave of people. Special thanks to all the different government representatives who have been with us yesterday and today. We never take it for granted. We always appreciate it. And as I said yesterday, we're always particularly glad when district government representatives are able to join us, because you are the people who are actually hosting the vast majority of forced migrants in your districts. And if you can take the time and trouble to engage in this kind of discussion, then we can really understand what it means when people say that Uganda is a very good place to be hosted as a refugee. The university representation in this conference, I think, was great, and I appreciate all of you who took these 2 days to join with us. It has really been fantastic, and great to have students as well. So thank you for making that time, and I hope that this will also encourage all the students to take some of these issues forward and come and push us. If you feel like, as was mentioned, we need some specific trainings, come and push us to try and develop those together with you. And lastly, of course, blended event, the very many participants we had online, the numbers fluctuated a bit, but I think if you were watching the screen, you know, at our high point, we had more than 70 people online. And I was particularly happy, I think Attaining Priscilla said it was worth the MBs. It was worth the MBs. So if you're not in Uganda, you may not understand what exactly that means, but having to buy the airtime bundles to be able to actually access such a thing online is not the cheapest of issues here in Uganda. So I'm very glad, Priscilla, it was worth the MBs and everybody else who also invested in those MBs. I think finally, you know, I always find it fascinating when we do the morning recap to see what it is that people bring up, what did they remember from the day before, and it's always, whenever people bring something up, you think, oh yeah, that was discussed, but you yourself, or I myself, I'd forgotten it probably. And it just makes us realize how we all remember differently, and we prioritize issues that we put on the table have been picked up and added to, and that we've had a very, very rich conference and a very rich beginning to this UCA and RLP partnership around MHPSS in humanitarian settings. So thank you for joining us on that journey, and I hope that we shall walk further together. So let me ask my counterpart, Gaston, are you here? To give his final observations and then to invite our guest to close the event. Thank you.
Good evening. Are you still awake? Yes. Thank you very much for staying alert until this hour. And thank you very much, Dr. Chris, for those kind remarks. It's been a long way. It's been a long day. And those of you who are online, it's been a long 2 days. Thank you very much for sticking with us. We thank you for engaging in the discussion. And I think this gives us a direction of the things that we need to do. A few clarifications on some of the things that came online about the mandate for counseling practice. That aspiration still remains. We've engaged, we've had discussions with the Minister of Health. What they were proposing for us was not very acceptable. We had discussions with the Minister of Gender, Labor and Social Development, and Harriet will probably know that she has a document that she received from us with regard to that effect with the Minister of Education. So, but I don't want to preempt anything. What I'm saying to the membership is that discussions are going on to see which government agency should reflect or should regulate counseling practice and psychological services. So that discussion is going on, and at the right time, when we have something tangible to show you, we'll be able to show you that this is what we've gotten. So it's like you've sent us hunting and we haven't captured anything to present back yet. But we haven't lost the game yet. So those of you asking what happened, we are still on. Otherwise, thank you very much, people who are online. Uganda Counselling Association brings together counseling agencies, those people who provide counseling in their practice. We would want to make sure that the people that you employ as counselors do not burn out. They don't get destroyed by what they love to do. So as Uganda Counselling Association, we make sure that we provide them with the right support that they need. We are in the process of developing a framework for counselor supervision, that if you are going to be a counselor and to provide counseling, you should have your own counselor too, as a matter of requirement. The question has been, do we have counselor supervisors who are trained, or do we have counselors who are trained to counsel? Those are two different levels. The fact that I know how to counsel does not mean that I know how to mentor another person or to support another counselor who is probably burning out from vicarious trauma. So we are engaging some of our colleagues who have received advanced training in counselor supervision to see how to work that way out. So in the near future, you'll hear us tell you that in order for you to continue doing counseling, we need you to have a counselor supervisor, because we need you to stay safe, we need you to stay healthy as you are able to help others. Otherwise, when you get injured, emotionally injured, then you become a burden to us. You become an additional burden to us, and yet we would want you to remain active and helping others. So that's going on. Before COVID, we would be holding, Uganda Counseling Association has different events other than conferences. So every 2 months, when we do not have an event, we run a fellowship. A fellowship is a thing, we meet on the last Friday of the month. Usually we are meeting at our office in Ntinda. And then we find one of us who presents on a topic of interest. And then after the talk, we talk among ourselves, we share a cup of tea, we network, and then we go. The last one that we had was virtual and it worked well. So we are thinking that probably in January, we shall be having another virtual fellowship. So look forward to that. And you could, if you have something that you want to present to the membership, like I was intrigued by dance therapy. I don't know whether we dance traditional dance like the other one, or whether we dance the other one of jumping where I come from. I'm not sure. But if we want platform for you to comment about this, we are ready to provide you with that. So we can have that day, and then you come and present, and then people will ask you questions, and those who need further training will probably tell you about that. So we provide that platform for new ideas, for things that you want to comment about. So please don't wait until the next conference. There are things that happen in between. Previously, before COVID, we were also organizing regional conferences where we would take counselors from this part of Uganda to another part of Uganda, depending on what they asked for. So we've been to Mbale for Eastern region, we were in Jinja, we have been to Guru, we were in Arua, and we were in Ambarara. And in May, we were supposed to be in Fort Portal. And then the Fort Portal one could not take place because of what happened in the country. We are still hoping that the Fort Portal team will find a way of doing it virtually, now that we found that this method can also work. So things are continuously happening. There are things going on. The Professional Code of Ethics, the 2nd edition is out. So please secure your own copy. And for those of you who will be renewing your membership, in addition to having your identity card, you're also going to have a certificate of registration. So you'll have a certificate of registration that you can present to your employer, that you can present as a credible member who should be trusted with the lives of others. So those are the things that are happening, and as they unfold, we will be able to let you know about it. While I was seated here, I told you we had invited a few of other friends who are in other countries. We particularly had Professor Danny Bush from University of Botswana. We had Thomas Yamjai from Zambia. We had Comfort from Cameroon, and we had Charles from Nigeria. And the discussion that we were having online was that why shouldn't we hold a conference that covers all the countries? And so that's a discussion that's running on some platform right now. And I think I'll add Dr. Chris to that debate, and maybe Mary, and then we'll see how we can push it forward. Because the argument was that if we were able to get somebody from East London to make a presentation to a conference in Uganda, then why can't we have a conference in Uganda where we have participants in Nigeria, in Cameroon, in South Africa, and they are all agreeing that the counseling issues or the counseling challenges are the same. They are the same. What we are grappling with in Uganda is what they are grappling with in Cameroon. And so having a common platform where we could discuss this would be a good one. So I think that discussion is going on, and we'll see whether we can expand this beyond our borders. Otherwise, I want to be thankful for all those of you who have been online, all your data. At one time, we had about 480 watching on Facebook. That's on the Uganda Counselling platform. And I think there were another 400 on LP platform. The videos that were done yesterday had been distributed to as many as 1,200 people. So the videos have been sent after we finish a session, the video remains and can be shared. So they were being shared. As you said, the ones on Zoom were about 70 fluctuating. So if you add those of us who are here, I think we've done a good job. So for the organizing team, Mary, Adrian, Onen, Martha, David, I might pronounce your name wrongly, and I've been in trouble. So thank you very much for the good job done. You are a great team, and I think you should be the next team to arrange the Africa one. And thank you very much, Refugee Law Project, for the financing. It wouldn't be easy for us to be able to pull off this without your help. And I would wish to encourage all the other organizations registered with the Uganda Counselling Association that this is your business, it's not mine. So next time, please, when you want something to be done, give us the money, and we do it. Where I'm born, during those days before the whites came, when there would be a wedding in a certain family, the family members, the neighbors would bring the food. You bring the food, you bring the drinks, you bring the cows, then you slaughter them, you cook the food, and you eat it yourselves. So I would suggest that you bring the money, we organize our conference, and we attend it ourselves. So instead of asking me to go and go the other side, write another proposal the other side, you bring the money, Healing Talk Counseling Services, Kisubi University, Chambogo University, University of Kisubi, sorry for I always put the things the other way around. From the universities, the student fees, give us some of the money. Chambogo University, give us part of the money, and then we bring it together, we run a conference, we attend it ourselves, and we move on. So thank you very much. I'm not sure whether I should be inviting Harriet. Harriet, please, if you could come. I have known Harriet for a very long time. So when you see me getting informal, please, it's not out of disrespect. It's just that we know each other for quite some time. Thank you.
Thank you, Gaston. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to observe all protocol, and I'm very happy to be here. The conferences have been on, but this is my first time to be here. And I told Gaston I'll be here today fully, and I thank God I came. This is our 16th annual Counsellors Conference, whose theme has been Attaining a Healthy Mind in a Healthy Body Amidst COVID-19, focused on forced migration, mental health, and gender. It has been 2 days,
A number of issues have been discussed, and it is my prayer that the recommendations will be taken on so that we'll be able to attain what we have discussed today. I would like to thank the Refuge Law Project for the financial support, to the Uganda Counselling Association so that this conference has been held, to all those online who have participated, and to all the audience here. Thank you so much for your support. I'd also like to thank, let's clap for ourselves because we have been active. For the online participants, I'd also say clap for yourselves too. Thank you so much. I do not want to say a lot. We need to digest what has been said. Gaston and your team, the technical team, thank you so much. Gaston, your team, it's a big task ahead of us. We need to see how we can attain what we have mentioned. And the theme is actually the right one amidst the circumstances that we are facing. And on this note, I've been asked to close. I'm not here to make speeches, but I would say, I wish you all a safe journey. May the good Lord bless you. I wish you a good weekend. And with these few words, I would like to declare the 16th Annual Counselling Conference closed. I say this all for God and my country. Thank you.
Is there anything else for me to say? I think you can leave at leisure.